Racism and sexism have been recurring issues all over the world since the creation of the first societies and still carry a huge toll to this day. Many authors have tried to portray these problems in their stories, but few have actually been able to demonstrate the realities of the people who live through these issues. In Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Janie, the protagonist, goes through a series of romantic relationships which lead her to become the woman she is at the end of the story. First, Logan Killick, who treated her more as a work partner than as a wife. Then, Joe Starks, who didn't let her be her true self. And finally, Tea-Cake, who treated her with respect and dignity. Hurston's story, Their Eyes Were Watching God, still holds relevance to this day due to the inclusion of feminist and anti-racist ideas relating to problems that can still be seen today in modern society. The feminist movement has been around since the late 19th century, and it has only grown stronger through the years. The fight for women, based on the idea that women and men are equal, is a critical part of Hurston's ideas that she wanted to communicate to her audience, and she does so on various occasions, which have led critics believe that Janie's real ambition is to find her own voice and identify in a society dominated by men. Kashgari 33. This is true, because as soon as Jody died, Hurston narrates that Janie went over to the dresser and looked hard at her skin and features. The young girl was gone, but a handsome woman had taken her place. She tore up the handkerchief from her head and let down her plentiful hair. The weight, the length, the glory was there. Hurston 87. Jody controlled how Janie behaved, and this male domination of her life was not doing her any good. So when he died, she was able to remove her head rag for the first time in years. This important step symbolizes Janie's freedom and how she could do whatever she wanted now that no one was controlling her. This situation still holds relevance today, in a job market that is mostly dominated by men, and women have little chances of succeeding at it. In fact, according to the International Labour Organization, in developed and emerging economies, women who have a spouse or a partner are less likely to be employed in a paid job or be actively looking for one. The concept of a society dominated by men still exists to this day because it can still be seen in daily situations. Women have the role of staying at home and not having a job, because their husband can sustain the whole family economically. This only shows a lack of equality when it is currently thought that men and women are equal. The other important idea Hurston includes in Their Eyes Were Watching God is the theme of racism. Racism has been a problem for many centuries, and even after slavery was abolished, whites still treated black people as inferior. Neale Hurston is able to express this idea by including when Tea-Cake asks, "What difference do it make about the color?" Hurston 171. And they answer him, "They making coffins for all the white folks. Tain't nothing but cheap pine, but that's better than nothing. Don't dump no white folks in the hole just so." Hurston 171. The fact that they are separating the white and black bodies from each other just so the white ones can have a proper burial, while the black ones are simply thrown on holes, says a whole lot about the values of society during the time. Even as dead bodies, white people still held more privileges than their black counterparts, showing how racism was imposed by mostly everyone, and blacks were always left at the back. This can still be seen in the present in the poverty percentages by race. In fact, in 2019, the poverty rate for black people was 18.8%, meaning about 1 out of 5 African Americans lived in poverty, while this number was only 7.3% for non-Hispanic whites. Colored people are still left at the back, and they live the worst lives for living in these conditions. Hurston's inclusions of these events allowed the audience to grasp what it was like to live as an African American in that time. but the problem persists to this day. Through her novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, Zora Neale Hurston allows the reader to understand the situations an African American woman lived through the time this was written. She is able to accurately depict the struggles of racism and feminism through the eyes of someone who lived it closely, and inspires the audience to create a change in the problems that were seen then and the ones that are still present today.